Troubled heart, wait a little, don't rush. Sit with me for a while and listen, not to the noise of the world, but to the quiet voice inside you. How is the human within you? Is he alive, or is he suffocating beneath the weight of endless worries and expectations? Once upon a time, he dreamed freely. He laughed at little joys. He found peace in the smallest touch of love. But now, have you buried him under the burdens of life? Ask yourself honestly, am I just like everyone else? Moving, breathing, surviving, but not truly living. Perhaps the human inside you is crying, and you've silenced his voice with distractions, with masks, with endless busyness. But today, in this moment, pause. Let yourself hear the cry within. Let your soul speak. For peace does not come from the outside world, not from possessions, not from achievements, not even from the approval of others. True peace is born when you embrace the forgotten self within you, when you allow your inner human to rise again, to breathe, to feel, to love. If you can do that, you will discover the peace you've searched for everywhere, but within yourself. The silent struggle of emotions and the hope of healing. There's a quiet war being fought inside the hearts of countless souls, a war unseen by the eyes of the world, but deeply felt by the fragile fabric of the human spirit. It is the silent struggle of emotions, the weight of unspoken pain, the burden of hidden tears, the longing for peace that seems just beyond reach. People walk through life carrying invisible wounds, wearing smiles as masks, while their hearts ache in ways words can never fully capture. They sit in crowded rooms but feel isolated, surrounded by voices yet unheard, alive yet quietly crumbling under the pressure of holding everything inside. This struggle is not often named, for naming it would mean revealing the vulnerability that society teaches us to hide. And so, the silent suffering continues, hidden behind laughter, buried under busyness, disguised beneath achievements, yet louder in the chambers of the soul than any thunder. Emotions are delicate, powerful, and sacred. They shape the way we see the world and the way the world sees us. Yet, in this fast-paced age, emotions are often dismissed as weakness, something to be silenced rather than expressed. People are told to stay strong, move on, or just be positive. But these words, though, well-meaning, often deepen the wound. For true strength is not in hiding pain, but in facing it. Not in denying tears, but in allowing them to fall as rivers of truth. But because the world rewards the mask and not the honesty, many choose silence over expression, isolation over vulnerability, and distraction over healing. The silent struggle begins in small moments, when a child hides their sadness because they fear being mocked, when a young adult pretends to be confident though insecurity consumes them, when a parent sacrifices their own emotional needs to appear unshakable for their family, or when an elder hides their loneliness because they do not want to be a burden. These moments accumulate layer upon layer, until the soul feels suffocated under the weight of emotions never given space to breathe. And so, depression, anxiety, emptiness, and loneliness grow like shadows in the heart, feeding on silence, thriving in the absence of light. The tragedy of emotional struggle is not only in the pain itself, but in the isolation it creates. To suffer silently is to feel unseen, unheard, and unvalued. To wonder if anyone could truly understand what lies within. People may post cheerful pictures on social media, go to work with determination, and laugh in public gatherings, yet return home to the haunting quiet of their own thoughts, where the smile fades and the weight becomes unbearable. And in those moments, questions arise. Does anyone see me? Does anyone care? Does anyone know what I carry? The silence of others becomes louder than any sound, and the soul begins to question its own worth. Society has built walls around emotions. Success is measured in wealth, status, and productivity, but rarely in inner peace. The culture of comparison pushes people into endless competition, where happiness is linked to being better than someone else, rather than being whole within oneself. In such an environment, emotional well-being is neglected. People learn to perform. The silence of emotions is not always born from choice. Often, it is forced upon us by the expectations of others. From a young age, we are taught which feelings are acceptable and which must be hidden. Boys are told not to cry, as if tears diminish their worth. Girls are told not to be angry, as if passion stains their dignity. Adults are told not to show weakness, as if humanity itself were something to be ashamed of. And so, slowly, we learn to silence our true feelings, to bury them deep in the soil of our souls, hoping that no one will notice the storms raging within. But buried emotions do not die. They transform into shadows that follow us wherever we go. These shadows take many forms. Sometimes they appear as anxiety, a constant restlessness that gnaws at the edges of peace. Sometimes they appear as depression, a heavy fog that dulls the colors of life. At other times, they manifest as anger, not at others, but at ourselves, for carrying too much, for being too vulnerable, for not being strong enough in the eyes of the world. The silent struggle of emotions becomes a cycle. The more we hide, the heavier it becomes. The heavier it becomes, the harder it is to speak. And so, the heart grows tired, carrying weights it was never meant to carry alone. Loneliness is the companion of this silence. There is a particular kind of pain in being surrounded by people, and yet feeling utterly alone. It is not the absence of company, but the absence of connection. The soul longs to be seen, not in its perfection, but in its truth. It longs for someone who does not just notice the smile, but also senses the trembling beneath it. Yet, in a world where everyone is busy hiding their own struggles, true connection becomes rare. People pass each other like actors on a stage, each performing their part, each pretending to be fine, each secretly wishing that someone would pause the play and ask, "Are you really okay?" But silence can only last so long before it begins to break. Sometimes it breaks through tears that cannot be controlled, sometimes through sudden anger, sometimes through illness that manifests in the body because the soul has carried too much for too long. Emotional pain, when ignored, often finds other ways to speak. The body keeps the score through sleepless nights, constant fatigue, unexplained aches, and even physical sickness. It is as if the soul whispers, "Pay attention to me." And when ignored, it begins to scream through the body itself. And yet, even in this struggle, there is a hidden gift. The very depth of our emotional pain reveals the depth of our capacity to feel, to love, to care. The soul that suffers deeply is also the soul that loves deeply. The heart that breaks is also the heart that knows the beauty of connection. The silence of struggle is not a sign of weakness, but a reflection of sensitivity, the ability to feel the world in ways others might never understand. And within this sensitivity lies the seed of healing. For the same heart that feels shattered can become a source of light for others once it learns to embrace its own truth. Healing begins with acknowledgement. To heal is to whisper to yourself, "It is okay to feel. It is okay to be broken. It is okay to not have it all together." Healing is not about forcing happiness or pretending that pain does not exist. It is about sitting with your emotions, allowing them to speak, and honoring them as part of your journey. It is about replacing shame with compassion, judgment with gentleness, silence with honesty. Healing is slow, tender, and often fragile, but it is real. There is also hope in connection. When one person dares to break the silence, it gives permission for others to do the same. Vulnerability has a quiet power, a way of opening doors that strength alone cannot. When we share our struggles, we do not just lighten our own load. We also remind others that they are not alone. Healing spreads like ripples. One honest conversation, one listening ear, one act of kindness at a time. In this way, communities of care are born where silence is broken. Not by noise, but by empathy, where the hidden wounds of the soul are seen, held, and gently tended. But perhaps the greatest hope of healing lies not only in others, but within ourselves. Too often, we wait for someone to save us, to notice us, to heal us. But the truth is, the soul carries within it its own medicine, the capacity to love itself, to nurture itself, to forgive itself. The journey of healing begins when we stop treating ourselves as enemies and start treating ourselves as beloved. When we learn to speak to ourselves gently, to rest when weary, to forgive when flawed, to honor our humanity rather than fight it, This is when the silent struggle begins to dissolve. Healing does not mean life will be free from pain. It means pain will no longer control us. It means we can sit with sorrow and still feel peace, face storms, and still find shelter, walk through darkness, and still believe in light. Healing is not the erasure of scars, but the acceptance of them as part of a larger story. A story that speaks not only of struggle, but of survival, not only of silence, but of resilience, not only of pain, but of hope. And so, the river of emotions flows, sometimes heavy, sometimes gentle, sometimes overwhelming, yet always moving forward. The silent struggle, though real, is not the end. For within every silence lies the possibility of a voice. Within every wound lies the possibility of healing. Within every night lies the promise of dawn, sunrise. Though the struggle of emotions is heavy, there is always hope. Healing is possible and peace can be restored. The first step toward healing is honesty, admitting that we are not okay, that we are struggling, that we need help. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is courage. When people begin to speak their truth, the silence of emotions begins to break. The second step is seeking connection. Healing cannot happen in isolation. It requires people to find communities, friendships, and relationships where they feel safe to share. A listening ear, a supportive group, or even a compassionate stranger can make a profound difference. Humanity was never designed for loneliness. We are wired for connection, for belonging, for togetherness. The third step is practicing stillness. Just as the body needs sleep, the soul needs rest. This rest comes through meditation, prayer, nature walks, journaling, or simply sitting in silence. Stillness allows emotions to surface and heal. It gives space for reflection, for clarity, and for renewal. The fourth step is embracing mental health care. Therapy, counseling, and emotional support are not signs of weakness, but acts of wisdom. Just as the body needs doctors, the heart and mind need healers. Normalizing therapy and emotional support is essential for healing societies. The fifth step is redefining success. True success is not measured by wealth, fame, or possessions, but by peace of mind and depth of relationships. A person who sleeps peacefully, who loves deeply, who gives generously, and who feels content is far more successful than one who owns everything but feels empty inside. By redefining success, people can free themselves from the endless cycle of comparison and competition that fuels emotional struggle. Finally, healing comes through love. Love is the ultimate solution, the medicine that no hospital can provide, the treasure that no money can buy. Love heals broken hearts, restores weary souls, and brings light to dark places. Love can be found in families, in friendships, in faith, in communities, but it must first begin within. To love oneself, to forgive oneself, To be gentle with one's own heart is the beginning of emotional healing. When people love themselves, they become capable of giving love to others, and a cycle of healing begins. The silent struggle of emotions will always exist, but so will the hope of healing. Every tear has meaning. Every wound has a chance to heal. Every lonely soul can find belonging, and every restless heart can discover peace. The journey is not easy, but it is possible. The world does not need more speed. It needs more stillness. It does not need more judgment. It needs more compassion. It does not need more masks. It needs more honesty. It does not need more pressure. It needs more peace. And above all, it does not need more loneliness. It needs more love.